A while ago, I made a YouTube video talking about how video game endings don't really matter, sometimes. And as I was writing for that video, a lot of good video game endings came to mind, and a lot of those were from Nintendo games. So let's talk Nintendo endings. Nintendo's made some of the greatest games of all time, and their games cover a wide range of genres. You could ask Nintendo fans for what their favorite game is, and you could get a range of answers from Mario to Animal Crossing to Fire Emblem to F-Zero. Me personally, I'm a single-player adventure guy, so my favorite Nintendo games often have grand stories with endings to match. Nintendo is a special company to a lot of people, me included. Their games and consoles have played an important role in my childhood from the early to mid-2000s up to the early 2010s, in turn helping me grow into the person I am today. Playing Pokémon on my DS Lite and hiding it under my pillow, beating the final level of Super Mario Bros. Wii with my cousin on the, well, Wii, and those good times playing online matches of Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and browsing Miiverse. Seriously, I hope Nintendo brings back Miiverse in some form at some point, but I sadly think those days are long gone. However, I didn't actually realize how much of an impact Nintendo had on me until the Game Awards 2023. Although my favorite game to release that year was Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, spectacular game by the way, there were other great Nintendo games that released that year. And during the Game Awards medley orchestra highlighting the 6 nominees running for Game of the Year, it was Super Mario Bros. Wonder's theme that really made me feel something. The whimsy, the joy, the creativity in that orchestration of its main theme really made me look back on my love for Nintendo. And Super Mario Bros. Wonder was a fantastic game and was a joy to play through from start to finish. I still boot the game up regularly to just play through some levels again because it is that good. Wonder though had 2 standout moments that I remember well from that game. The first was the Piranha Plant singing level right at the start of the game, and the other, well, it was the final boss against Bowser. Nintendo knew that they cooked with the music levels in this game. There are so many of them throughout the game, but Bowser's Castle claims the top spot as the best musical performance in the game. Maybe it's the heavy metal / rock themed track that does it for me, or the fun gimmick of attacking on beat of the song, but it just hit the right notes for me. Pun intended. Anyways, I'll talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder a bit more in just a bit. In today's video, I wanted to talk about some of the ways Nintendo make their video game endings and why they're so impactful. On screen right now will be a list of the games that I'll be talking about. I will try my best to talk about why these endings are special without fully ruining it for you if you haven't played them, but since we're talking about endings, it is pretty tough, so take this as your spoiler warning. Now, let's talk about the first way Nintendo makes their game endings. Since I did talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder's finale, I do think that's a good place to start. Nintendo endings with gameplay moments that define the journey. Moments like these are where Nintendo takes a bit of a step back in the narrative department to just go all in on the gameplay to make you feel like you've reached the climax. Either throwing everything the game has to offer at you in one final challenge, or just using the controls, world, and moveset of the game to create something unique and epic. Super Mario Bros. Wonder falls into the latter of those that I mentioned. Wonder's final boss is against Bowser. Surprise, who could have guessed? But you know, Mario games have always had Bowser be the final boss, and there are only so many times you can just make him big and strong, right? Sure, there are some variations throughout the series, but for the most part, it's just big Bowser. So Wonder once again flexes its creativity and just turns the guy into a castle. Yes, a whole castle. Bowser does this at the start of the game, so it's no real surprise, but as you progress through the Flower Kingdom, you find out why Bowser wants to collect the Wonder Seeds, and it's to create the Big Wonder. And what's this big plan, you may ask? A concert. A rock concert. Sure, it is a rock concert that he wants to use to take over the world, but is that a bad thing? Wonder's final boss fight is a musical level where you fight off against a sentient castle with big fists, where you have to deal damage to him on the beat of the song. The boss fight is not hard, as it just requires following the beat of the song, but seeing this as a backdrop and finale to a game that already went over the top with pulling surprises, Castle Bowser Rock makes for one incredible encore. Another game from the same year that I found scratched that same "this is epic" moment was the ending to 2023's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is a spectacular game. It's one of my favorite Zeldas, and the months leading up to its release, finally playing it, then finishing it, yeah, the game left a mark on me for sure. Its ending though, is wonderful. The final fight against Ganondorf when his health bar goes beyond the normal limit for a health bar caught me off guard, followed by fighting Dragon Ganondorf alongside Dragon Zelda, goosebumps. The game really threw everything it had to you in that two-phase fight, but the moment that stood out to me in that ending was this button press right here. Hold A to reach and grab Zelda. Although it is more of a narrative closure to the game, I'm putting it in this gameplay section of the video because 1, this is my video, but having to catch Zelda as you fall out of the sky is the game coming full circle with a single button press. At the very start, you lose Zelda into the pits below when you fail to catch her, followed by Link waking up in the sky and leaping out of it all alone. But now, after your whole journey through Hyrule, you've seen all the game has to offer, and now you have one job left, and it's in your very hands. You have to make that final catch. Man, just talking about Tears of the Kingdom really makes me want to go back and play it again. Anyways, now let's talk about endings that are just hard, plain difficult. The game wants you to sit there, try repeatedly, fail over and over again until one time where you pull it off. A lot of people that don't play Nintendo games see them as easy games, but Nintendo can't throw hands. A lot of them. Quick heads up, I'll once again talk about 2 modern Nintendo games, but I promise I'll talk about some older titles just a bit later. To make it up to you, let's start off with Metroid Dread. You know where I'm going with this. Metroid Dread is a hard game, not on par with the likes of From Software games or Ninja Gaiden, but pretty challenging. The Emmy robots always keep you on your feet as they can one-shot you with one move with the smallest window to parry that attack, and some of the bosses also pose quite the threat. Nothing too crazy, but that's until you get to Ravenbeak. Other than that revelation that he is also Samus's father, through some surrogate way, being a wild twist, his fight is hard as nails. In terms of difficulty, Ravenbeak may be the second hardest final boss I've faced in the game, just behind Sekiro's Sword Saint Ishin. But it wasn't just the difficulty that made the fight fun, it's because Samus's moveset in Dread is perfect, and Ravenbeak makes you use everything you have and all the skills you know to best him. He has 3 different phases, and the cinematography in some sections here, just wow. Ravenbeak is an S-tier boss fight, S-tier character, and the perfect send-off to the best game I played from 2021. I hope they add him in the next Super Smash Bros. Game. Moving on, a year after Dread, Nintendo released yet another game with a very challenging final boss, Pokémon Legends Arceus. You either know or you don't, but the final boss in the post-game wasn't just memorable, but also hard. In fact, there were also 3 phases to this fight as well, so why was this final boss special? Other than its difficulty, the battle in question makes a callback to one of Pokemon's hardest battles, against Cynthia from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. I grew up with Platinum and I have so many memories playing it, especially fighting Cynthia, and how young me took forever to finally beat her. So when I heard her famous theme and notes play when I fought Pokemon wielder Volo in Legends Arceus, I just had to stop and take it in. And then he sent out the Spiritomb, the flashbacks. But yeah, Volo puts up a really strong fight, and just like Cynthia, his team covers all its weaknesses, plays smart to his strengths, and has Giratina. Yes, Giratina. Technically, it's not his Pokemon, as he asks it to fight for him, and Giratina obeys, and Giratina has a second phase. So not only do you have to use your 6 Pokemon to take out his 6, wielded by a very competent trainer, you have to then fight one of Sinnoh's 3 main legendary Pokemon twice. I hope that paints a clear picture on why this fight is hard. It may have taken me a lot less attempts to beat it than it took me to beat Cynthia back in the day, but Game Freak honestly created one of the greatest Pokemon battles of all time. They really cooked. Happy 30th anniversary Pokemon, by the way. Can't wait to play the next generation of Pokemon soon. Narratives and stories play a major part in creating incredible endings. Both Tears of the Kingdom and Pokemon Legend Arceus final boss are as impactful as they are, not just because of how you play against them, but the narrative build-up that led them there in the first place. Magical stories have been told through video games. Games like Silent Hill 2, Nier Automata, and Metal Gear Solid are just some of my favorite stories from games outside of Nintendo. Nintendo isn't really regarded as a story-driven company. Yes, they have made games with great narratives, but they are primarily gameplay first when it comes to their development, which is why when one of their endings leaves me in awe due to their narrative is a rare occurrence. Link's Awakening is one such example. Originally released back in the 90s for Nintendo's Game Boy, I wasn't alive back then, so I couldn't play it. Nintendo did remake the game in 2019, so that's when I first got my hands on it. Although upon first playing it, it didn't connect with me that much, but the more time that passes since my first playthrough of the game, the more the game, and especially the ending, resonates with me. How come? In one of the more surprising twists to come from a Nintendo game, it is revealed that the entire game was set entirely in a dream. Although the entire story being a dream trope has been done in many different stories, the one in Link's Awakening feels a lot more different, mainly because it's a game, making you feel like you're a part of this world. You've explored the many corners of Koholint Island, done that fetch quest that connects the inhabitants of the island together, and just fallen in love with the odd yet weird world here. Inspired by Twin Peaks, the cast of characters have this charm and uncertainty when you talk to them, making them stand out from your usual Zelda games. So, after my 15 hours in the game, when it finally came time to wake Link up from his magical slumber, not only did it surprise me, but it felt emotional. How a world as lived in like this is just a fragment of the imagination. RPGs are known for having grand stories with a lovable cast of characters, and Nintendo has made many games in this genre. I recently got into Fire Emblem through Three Houses, which I'll get into a bit later, but I grew up playing Pokémon and Mario and Luigi series as my primary source of RPGs from Nintendo. I did play Mother 3 as well, but that was on an emulator, and I don't have footage of that, so I can't talk about it. Instead, I'll talk about the next best thing: Xenoblade Chronicles. The first Xenoblade, so far the only Xeno game that I've played, is incredible. The heavenly soundtrack, cast of characters, world design, taking MMO combat into a single player game. There's just so much to love about this game, but what made me fall more in love with it was the final act of the game, narratively speaking. I was getting a bit drained of the game after the halfway mark, thanks mostly to the numbing side quests of the game, but the final plot reveals and ending was special. Considering that I did say I was going to spoil all the games I would be talking about here, I'll actually refrain from spoiling this one. It's quite the moment, quite the story, and you should decide fate for yourself. Narrative endings are very impactful, but Nintendo has also mastered a way of making the end feel rewarding through vibes alone. Take Super Mario Galaxy. Yes, many regard its ending as simple yet wonderful at the same time, but seeing all the Lumas come together to stop the black hole from exploding to reset the universe only feels that good if you've played the game. Take The Last of Us, a game with an incredible story and ending, yet you could in theory just watch a cutscene compilation of the game and get the same emotions due to its narrative focus. Galaxy though is different. Going through the many galaxies many times over to collect certain stars, the variety in them and making them magical each and every time you go there, to seeing the Comet Observatory grow both visually and audibly as you progress through the game is a part of your experience. Maybe you'll aim to get the bare minimum of stars to reach the center of the universe, or aim to get them all before making your way there, but either way, once you decide to beat the game, it's all a part of your story, and that's what makes the Lumas and Rosalina come together such a special moment. Man, I really can't wait for that Super Mario Galaxy movie to release. Another game that I recently played through that hit these same notes for me was Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like Xenoblade, I don't want to spoil this game in a spoiler-focused video, but the reason for that is that I'm currently writing up a retrospective video on it, so I want to save most of my thoughts for that video. As a summary, I chose to play through the Black Eagle storyline all the way through, if you know what I mean. When reaching the end, it felt rewarding, yet conflicting. I had accomplished so much alongside that class, yet at what cost? I'm currently making my way through my second playthrough, but I can confidently say that Three Houses is very special, and regardless of which house and path you pick, the ending you'll get will be fitting for what transpired. However, the biggest reason for me making this video is because whenever I think of one of the best endings to a game, my memory instantly throws me back to one of the best games I played in the last year. In fact, the game did release last year, and well after my honeymoon phase with the game, I can confidently say that the ending to Donkey Kong Bonanza is probably my favorite ending sequence to a game ever. I'm not a long-time Donkey Kong fan. I remember playing Donkey Kong Country Returns on the 3DS well over 10 years ago and having a good time with it, and only played through the original trilogy a few years ago. The levels, difficulty, gameplay, gimmicks, and of course, the iconic soundtrack has made me a fan of Donkey Kong. And what perfect timing, as Bonanza was announced just a few months after I beat DKC3, and I was hyped. But enough on my anticipation, because once the game launched, my expectations were met. I think Bonanza is my favorite 3D platformer. An important factor in making such a decision was its ending. To fully understand Bonanza's ending, well, there is not much to understand really, it's just that you have to take the context of the series and previous game into account. Bonanza was the first new game from the 3D Mario team since Odyssey in 2017, first new Donkey Kong game since Retro Studios' Tropical Freeze in 2014, first new 3D Donkey Kong game since Rare's Donkey Kong 64 from 1999, over 30 years since DK's console breakthrough on the SNES with Donkey Kong Country back in 1994, and well over 40 years since Donkey Kong's first appearance appearance on the arcades back in 1981. Over 40 years of franchise history, multiple appearances in crossover titles like Smash Bros. And Mario Sports titles, yet the times between each of these eras has been quite barren. So to finally get a new mainline Donkey Kong game, as well as the main launch period titles for the Switch 2, Nintendo made sure to make its ending simply one of the best by paying homage to DK's storied history. As hectic, fast-paced, and perfect as the ending was, I'll blaze through it in a way to make it clear. First, cue the music. DK and Pauline make their way to the planet's core with their final encounter with Void, leaving DK frozen. Through the power of song and friendship, Pauline's voice helps DK break through. Void rushes towards the core in order to get his wish granted from the great Bonandium root. You know what happens next. Let's up the pace. King K. Rool is back, sends Void flying, chases after the Bonandium core to get his wish. DK and Pauline give chase. You find the whole Kremling crew. Discover the enemies in the game were all designed on the original Kremlings. You fight K. Rool and defeat him. Wish for bananas and return to the surface. Bananas guide you to the surface as it forms a mythical tower. Bonanza hits you with the fake credit roll, just like the original Donkey Kong Country. King K. Rool is back on a jetpack and attacks you as you barrel towards the surface, and you land in New Donk City. King K. Rool commits Geneva war crimes on the entire city. You race through the destroyed New Donk City, defeat K. Rool again in his third boss fight, the most Elden Ring sounding name ever, K. Rool, King of Rot. Before you beat him one final time and let bananas reign over the now repaired New Donk City. Playing through this was just magical, simply incredible. I've always struggled on making outros for my videos, though I do think that my summary of DK Bonanza's ending is the best way to end a video like this one. It hits all the fronts a good ending should have, from narrative, music, gameplay evolution, and spectacle, and overall, it's just fun. Nintendo games have special endings, and although this video was more focused on a modern era of Nintendo games, I know this is something that Nintendo has excelled at in their past titles as well. Hey, who knows? Maybe if this video does good enough, I can make a part 2 to this video at some point. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching all the way through, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day, night, and week, and with that, Storm out.